Welcome to Shade in the City. I'm your girl Treese, and I'm here on this good Saturday to give you the Beyond the Gates season 1 episode 59. So if you guys have not already, all of my BTG Shade Squad, please make sure that you guys hit that like button. And if you have not already subscribed, please do, because we're a whole vibe over here. Okay. And yeah, y'all, I hope that you guys are all having a good Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for being patient with me, y'all, because it's just been a lot. And I just, like I said, I just been trying to catch up. So I appreciate y'all. But yeah, let's get into this episode and let's get shady. Y'all, so we know that Ted has shown up at Eva's room, and obviously he's disappointed when the door opens and it's five guys standing there. Okay, so he makes it clear that he's paying for the room and he didn't approve of her being there. And so five guys, because I can't even, she's there as Dana, I guess, right? And this is why we call it five guys, because it's getting confusing. So five guys tells Ted that, look, he looks like the sexy young thirst trap who swept her off her feet decades ago. And I said, Lord. So Ted's like, I don't want to be, I don't need any reminders. I don't. I'm good. I'm good. So Five Guys starts reminiscing about their times in the different hotel rooms, and she throws herself on the bed and asks him, "Oh, so you want to have some fun?" And so Ted tells her, "You know what? You are a really sick person." Leslie's like, "Look, I would never, I was just joking. I would never do it in my daughter's room." And said, "Maybe you're the one that's sick and twisted because you even considered it." And I said, "No, he just thinks that you're crazy and not logical. So absolutely, he thinks you would do something nasty like that." So Ted says, and then Ted is like, "Yeah," says the woman who kicked out her daughter, our daughter. Okay. And so Five Guys says, "I kicked her out of the apartment, but not out of my life." All right. She says she loves Eva with everything that she is. And Ted says, I don't believe that bullshit. Okay. And you know what? With feelings, he said feelings require that you have a heart. And you know, you sold yours a long time ago. I said, well, damn, Ted. I like that clapback though. I like this new Ted. I like this new Ted. I know a lot of y'all are struggling. I've been on the blue sky. I've seen the Facebooks. A lot of people are struggling with this new Ted, and I don't know why. Because I'm gonna be honest, it feels better than the last Ted. Y'all drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. And so Five Guys tells him, you know what? You're casting me as a devil so you can sleep at night. And she lies and said that she simply came to check on Eva because that's what a good mother does. And Ted mentions that, you know what? Well, your bag look real thick. And so he decides that he gonna empty it on the table. And of course, we see the robe and everything else that she done taken come out. And clearly, so not only are you crazy, but you are a thief. However, Five Guys is able to shrug this off and say, well, these are just souvenirs that I was taking home with me. So he's like, look, just cut the crap. And can we be real for once in your life? He said, however, I understand that may be hard for you because you played so many parts. You don't know what's real anymore. And I said, you better tell her, Ted. Tell her what it is. I'm here for it. Five Guys insisted, no, I really came to check on Eva. And Ted addresses her and he brings up, okay, so why did you go run around telling Kat that Eva ran Laura off the road? And he was like, she had an ironclad alibi and there was no way she could have done it. And so Leslie says, praise the Lord, won't he do it? Won't he do it? And she says, well, at least we don't have to worry because Eva's innocent. Christ is Saul. I said, yo, this is just a new level of nuts that I've just never even like. I guess because I feel like you can always talk sense into people. Not her, not her, not her. If Ted brings up, well, look, you still didn't answer the question. So Five Guys then claims, well, at first I was worried that, Eva might be led astray and into a life of a common criminal. But at least now she can have some friends at that bougie salon that she bought her. And Ted was like, I didn't buy her a salon. I just rented her a chair. And the look of disgust on Five Guys' face when he said all you did was rent a chair. Like, how dare you? I was like, I cannot. So Ted tells her, you know what? You gaslight with the best of them, and you're the queen of twisting and turning things around when you're the only one that's guilty. And so he tells her, you know what? All you're doing is all this dodging and weaving really is just making you look more suspect. And he asked her, well, why would you point the finger at Eva? He said, I knew you were capable of almost anything, and points out the way she went through all of this to destroy his marriage in the most humiliating way possible. And so he said, I know what it is. You're the one that hurt Laura. And I said, it's about time. Somebody listen to Kat. Y'all tried to tell the girl she crazy. No, she did it. Welcome. I'm glad that you've arrived. So then we see Anita and Vernon. They're off canoodling as Vernon is on his way out the door. And he offers to stay behind to be a buffer between Anita and Tracy. But Anita thinks that, although you were very helpful to break the initial tension, I think that we'll be okay. I think we're good now. So as Vernon leaves, Tracy is admiring this piano and reminisces about the lopsided one that they used to play on back in the day, the articulates. And so she tells Anita, you know what? I know this must cost a fortune, girl. And, you definitely won a lottery. And so Anita's like, I don't know what you mean by that. And Tracy is, reflecting on how, there used to be a time when we could barely find a meal. And we would used to just all share the same meal. And so Tracy comments on how it must be nice to have staff handle everything. And so finally Anita's like, okay, girl, yes, life is good. And I count my blessings every day. And she's like, but what are you really getting to? Because you keep talking about how far I've come. And so Tracy says, well, we used to share everything, our meals, clothes, our dreams. And now here you are living like black royalty. And it makes it clear, yes, I was blessed, but I've earned everything that I have. And Tracy responds, well, is that so? And I said, oh no, if y'all was on the blue sky when I was on the blue sky, I was having a fit during the scene. I was like, Anita, just kick up out of your house respectfully. Respectfully. Y'all know I love that word. Okay. Anita was like, well, yeah, but I don't like what you're implying. So Tracy tells her, well, hit dog will holler. Anita makes it clear, I'm not hollering. I'm correcting your aim. And she let her know that nobody gave her this life. I worked hard for this. And the harder I worked, the more my efforts were rewarded. I said, that's right, Anita. And so Tracy says, that's what you tell yourself. And I said, oh, it's getting nasty over the Dupree household. But over at Garland Memorial, right? Doug is at the hospital talking to Shanice, and she's complimenting him for, doing a great job overseeing the surgery, and his quick recovery because now he's out the cast. So Doug tells Shanice that he's looking for Vanessa because she said that she was going to be there, and Shanice tells him that, look, I ain't seen her. I don't know where she at. So while they're at the nurse's station, Shanice is talking to her coworker, and she's fantasizing about Andre and talking about how he can get it. Okay, and I said, I think a lot of people want to give it. But she says that he has a reputation, and she ain't got time for anyone's petty jealousy. And so then she tells her, well, there's a jealous outbreak in the hospital, and they go on about Dr. Flannery and his wife when Doug interrupts, asking about, have you seen Vanessa? And Shanice's like, no, I still have not seen her because she is not checking for you. And so Doug decides that he's gonna go off to look for her. But we find out Vanessa is preoccupied down at Off Free Jeans, okay, with Joey. Surprise, surprise. And they went to see a property, and Vanessa was able to negotiate some things on Joey's behalf. So he's just singing her praises. And Joey tells her, you're brilliant and you're dangerous, and he admires her technique. And so Joey is just laying it on thick with Vanessa at this point. And They at this point are so close, they're holding hands when Doug walks in. And, you know, as they're talking about how great of a team they make, Doug walks up and is like, "Oh, do you?" So he tells them, "Oh, so y'all decided to celebrate my recovery without me?" And Joey was, of course, surprised to see him, and surprised to see that his cast is off. And Vanessa apologizes for missing the removal and says, she had this important meeting with Joey. I would have sat down like Tay Diggs and Nia Long did in Brown Sugar, and I would have came into Offrey Jeans, and I would have told them, "Bring me your best bottle of champagne, sparkling cider, whatever y'all got, Offrey Jeans. Bring me your best bottle, because we here to celebrate my divorce." That's what that would have turned into. I don't know what Doug is doing. I've already told y'all that whole situation irritates me and how he handles this whole Vanessa Joey situation. I'll let y'all say what y'all need to say in the comments. Let's move on. Doug said that he's going back to the hospital because unlike some people, his patients actually need his attention. And so Vanessa mentions, "Well, you just got here." And Doug tells her, "You know what? 3 is a crowd. And y'all look like y'all were doing fine without me." And that's why I said, Doug, I can't feel no way. I don't feel no ways, Doug. You doing this to yourself, brother. And so Joey was like, "Well, is it something I said?" No, it's something you doing. His wife. That's what it is. And so then we move over to Smitty. He happens to be on a phone call when Martin walks in. So when he gets off, he's talking about the, groomers that use social media to get to the kids, and it bothers him because he keeps worrying about his own kids, and da 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 da. And we know he's investigating this whole story, right? So Martin suggests that, well, maybe don't come at some of the people. Oh, so Smitty talks about how the kids that he, I guess, has been trying to interview clam up, kind of just like Samantha and Tyrell do right now, and they're not really open to talking to him. And so Martin suggests that he not come at him like he's covering breaking news. And so Smitty was like, "Oh, are you trying to say I'm too pushy?" And Martin tells him, "Well, when you're in reporter mode, your intensity can be a bit intimidating." So Martin, however, is turned on by the reporter's voice. Okay. And so Smitty was like, "Oh, well, I ain't got time for that. But what I do got time for is we need to sit down and talk about something." But Martin says, "Oh, no, the mayor is finally looking at my infrastructure bill. And so I got Zoom meetings to attend." And so Smitty's confused as hell because he was like, "You was just ready to hunch 30 seconds ago. And now when it's time to discuss something serious, now you're swamped." And so he's like, "You know what? I just need 10 minutes of your time." But then they're interrupted by Vernon, who happens to be there to help Samantha with a history paper. So Vernon is talking to Samantha and sharing some of their family history and how he was organizing daily protests when Martin comes down and talks about how his Zoom meetings have been canceled. So Martin thinks that this is the mayor just making his rounds, and therefore people no longer are interested or are no longer interested in talking to him. So Vernon invites Martin to sit down with him and Samantha and tells him, sometimes the best defense is to make them play your game. And Martin says that, "You know what, look, thank you, Grandpa, but I just need a minute." And so as he goes to get a minute, I will say that Smitty was wrong for this. If you know this man need a minute, why would you come back over here pressing him about trying to talk again? And that's exactly what Smitty did. And he was like, hey, so I think this is a better time, better time than any. Maybe we should just pop out, go get something to eat or whatever, so we can have a conversation. And Martin's like, "Oh, you know what? That's a good idea." And he invites Vernon and Samantha, which of course pisses Smitty off. And even Smitty goes and was like, "Yo, man, that's not what I had in mind." And my notes say Martin being a terrible husband again. I mean, Blue Sky was upset, y'all. They were upset with Martin on Friday. And I said, I understand. Now, back at Eva's hotel room, Ted is accusing Five Guys of driving the motorcycle that led to Laura's crash. He tells her that, you've really lost your mind at this point. And so Five Guy tells him that you're making assumptions. And so Ted says, "You know what? I get you coming after me, but Laura had nothing to do with this equation." And she denies whatever he's implying. And so he tells her, "You know what? You're going to rot in hell right after you spend 20 years in behind bars." And so Five Guys makes it clear that she ain't going nowhere, and neither is his mouth, and he better keep it shut. And I said, y'all know she crazy. I don't know why. Again, I keep saying, why y'all keep putting yourself in these predicaments? But I guess he didn't know he was getting into it because he was coming to see Eva. But once I saw she was there, I would have walked on by. That's what I would have did. Okay. So now Ted asked, well, who's gonna stop me? And so Five Guys warns him that if he keeps it up, she'll make sure even Eva will catch even more hell than she's already facing. And I said, you are just a really nasty, bitter. So Ted was like, you would really send Eva to prison for something you did? Five Guy says, I said what I said, and I hold the cards right now. So Ted said, look, at this point, I might not have known this girl was my daughter, but moving forward, I will do everything I can to protect Eva, especially from you. And then he calls her a crazy bitch. Okay. And she responds, well, you know what? That's what I was hoping for. Ted tells her, look, we may cross paths, and there's nothing I can do about that. But he warns her, stay away from me and mine, or I'll make you wish you had. And so Five Guys tells him before he goes, hey, that's Miss Bitch. Okay, that's Miss Bitch to you. And you know what? Ted's like, look, you heard what I said. And I said, well, you know what? I do like these Ted and Leslie scenes because she's just really so delusional. Like, even last episode when she was like, Eva had to really tell her, like, this man hates you. Like, it's not going through. It's not the dots aren't connecting. Okay. Now, back over at Anita. So yeah, Tracy is asking Anita about when she won her first solo Grammy. And so Anita plays coy, like, oh girl, I don't remember. And so Tracy complains about, how she was down at the local tavern performing for tips only. And then they would always ask when Anita was coming, like she wasn't enough on her own. And so we finally learned that Tracy is basically jealous because when she went out to perform alone, nobody wanted her without Anita. Anita apologizes that she had that experience. Tracy says what she didn't have was what made Dante Green look at Anita and see dollar signs. Then she goes on to say what she missed was Anita's willingness to walk over anybody that got in her way. And Anita says, look, I made a decision to leave a group. I didn't walk over anybody. That happens. And so Tracy said, yes, but you left at the worst possible time when we needed you the most. And so finally, they circle back, or they're able, and she apologizes for going there. But Anita tells her, no, I get it. You deserve answers. And I think at this point, she would have already been up out my house. And I would have been like, this is a solo situation. Okay. But Anita says, it's your truth. And Anita says her truth and said that she felt like she was drowning. And every day she woke up, the walls were closing in on her. And so Tracy tells her, well, they were all going through it. But Anita mentions that there was something that happened that we never really figure out that she didn't really want to face. And she said every time that she looked at Tracy and Sharon, she saw something. But they never say what it is literally what my notes said. Tracy accuses her of running, and Anita said that she was barely holding on with the guilt, and work was her only salvation to keep her from thinking about what happened. So Tracy tells her, well, we could have helped each other because that's what sisters are supposed to do. And Anita says, well, I had to save myself before I could try to save anybody else. And I said, ain't that right, sister? And then Tracy tells, look, you know what? I'm not buying that. I'm not gonna believe that. Said, what you're not gonna do is sit out here and make yourself look like a wounded bird that was able to fly away with a broken wing. And I said, oh. And she said, you didn't make it because you work harder. You made it because you did what the rest of us couldn't, be ruthless. And so she said, you saw your chance and you took it. And when I looked up, and she said, and then when we looked up, you were gone. And it didn't matter who you had to walk over. And she accuses her of basically throwing them away. And so Anita admits, yeah, I was ruthless. And maybe I wanted something that was only mine. And she said, and I'm not going to apologize for making my own way. So Tracy is like, well, we didn't have those advantages that you had. Anita says it didn't matter who or what she had to sacrifice, and says it had to be that way. And she hates that they had to be collateral damage. But Tracy then mentions that it wasn't just Sharon and her, that there was the collateral damage. So now I need my BTG Shade Squad to really weigh in. What do you think is going on? What do you think this means? What are they hitting to? What is the it that they're talking about? All right, let's move on. So we see Five Guys comes home. All right. And she starts talking to herself in the mirror, reciting affirmations to all her alter egos. Okay. It was a good time. It's a whole new level of crazy. So she's questioning which personality Ted will choose. Meanwhile, shout out to all my live sky or blue sky squad. Um, Five Guys has now transformed, and I can't remember which sub. Please drop down in the comments and remind me. I will definitely shout you out again because we decided, I think like a month ago, there is going to be another personality. And when it comes, we are going to call her what? Pick Six. And she has arrived in a Nicole wig. So Pick Six is basically Nicole 2.0, and she's, in her magic mirror on the wall pretending to be, and basically mocking Nicole. And I ain't even gonna hold you, I think I was just so laughing to myself that I called this a month ago and that we already named this character. So I just thought that was so dope. So shout out to y'all in the BTG Shade Squad. We now have transformed. Allow me to reintroduce myself. You know what I'm saying? It's now Pick Six. Okay. So we went from 5 to 6. All right. Now, Vernon, Martin, and Smitty, they're walking into Offrey Jeans as Doug is leaving in a huff, and they're wondering, like, oh, what's all that about? And so Vernon points out that he thinks it's because Vanessa's over there getting cozy with Joey. So Smitty is like, they trying to eat, and Smitty is just all perplexed in their business, and he's like, I wonder what's really going on. So Martin suggests that maybe they're just old acquaintances, and Samantha chimes in, nah, that vibe gives that, it's giving more than that. And so Martin tries to check Samantha, like, you do see your grandfather here, right? And Vernon says, look, my old eyes might be tired, but I ain't blind and I see the same thing that she see. So Smitty feels like, well, you know what? Something's off about that. And so Samantha tries to change the subject. And Smitty says something. And then that's when Smitty says something smart about avoiding the subject. When Vernon then jumps in and says, you know what? We should can we order? Can we order? Okay. And so Martin was like, yeah, let's leave work at home because some of us don't want to turn everything into a federal investigation. I said, oh my, he's back. He's back. He been gone for a while, but he back for the jump off. Okay. Martin, asshole Martin is back. I don't know if he ever really left, but he toned it down. But asshole Martin is back. He has arrived. And Smitty, I ain't gonna say go get your lick, but I don't know how you do it, sir. I could not deal with Martin. He's petty, he's shady. I couldn't deal with someone that's like me. I couldn't deal with someone that's like me. You can't clap back. No. So they end their lunch, and Smitty asks Samantha to take an Uber home with Vernon so he can hash things out with Martin. And he tells Martin basically that they need to talk and you need to listen. Now we move on. Back at Garland, Vanessa notices at this point that her and Joey have everyone's attention inside Offrey Jeans. And so Joey's like, what, look, boo, I only got eyes on you. So she tells him that, Doug has really been going through it lately. And so he's like, look, I understand if you got to handle your business, if that's what you want to do. And Vanessa says, that's not what I want to do, actually, but it's probably what I should do. So she gets up and leaves. Ted walks into the hospital, or Ted is in the hospital, and Shani stops him. And she wants to talk about Andre's documentary. And, said everybody has been asking about it nonstop. And basically, she just want to know how she looked. And he lets her know, look, you represented as a nurse supervisor. You doing what you're supposed to do. So as he's getting ready to walk into the elevator, Vanessa walks off the elevator. And of course, she wants to have words with Ted because apparently this is the first time that she's seen him outside of, I guess, with Eva or with Nicole. And she tells him that he is a clueless son of a... Okay. Vanessa said she wishes she was there that night so she could have laid into him in front of Nicole's family and friends. And she goes on about how she listened to Nicole sing his praises and says Nicole never once doubted him, which we all know. And meanwhile, he was out there with Pick Six. Okay. So Ted stops her and says, look, if you're going to take me to tax, I need you to make sure that you got your facts straight. So Ted says, what me and Dana had was not ongoing. And we hooked up a long time ago when me and Nicole were having some problems. And so Vanessa asked if, you even know what loyalty means, and says, Nicole chose you every day of your marriage. And I love everybody, all my Blue Sky BTG squad that was like, yo, right message, wrong messenger. Vanessa, you got nerve. I get where I feel everything you saying, sis, but you got nerve being the person that's saying it. Especially not when you was just at All Free Jeans canoodling with Joey. Okay. Ted says, look, he knows that he messed up and he doesn't need her to tell him about what Nicole is worth. He admits that he sees a whole different look in Nicole's eyes and that he will never forgive himself for what he's done to her or taken from them. So she notices that Shanice is ear hustling at this point. And so she asked her, and this point Ted leaves. And so she's like, oh, Shanice, so have you seen Doug? And Shanice tells her that, Doug was looking for her earlier and she hasn't seen him. And then Vanessa tries to call Doug and he sends her the voicemail. And yeah, y'all, that was pretty much episode 59 of Beyond the Gates. I think I did miss some stuff, some little smart comments between Martin and Smitty. Hopefully y'all don't hold that against me, but I don't think y'all really care. But because again, Martin's an asshole. He's back. That's just I think I summed it up good enough for y'all. But again, I appreciate y'all being here for me. Announcements, be on the lookout. Since we missed last week, we will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. with the I don't want to use this one first, but the Never Ever Mets and the Love and Marriage Detroit panel with Really Be TV reviews. So again, notifications on. We're going live 1:00 tomorrow. Outside of that, be on the lookout for our Love After Lockup that we owe you, Real Housewives of Atlanta, 90 Day. Nels just committed that she's gonna do the Shy. So yeah, y'all, we growing and glowing. We got a lot of things that we're getting into. BMF is coming back. And of course, I'm always here daily for the most part when I'm not on vacation, but daily for the most part to do the Beyond the Gate. So yeah, y'all stay tuned. We appreciate the support. Keep supporting. Share. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. Please comment. If you haven't, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Make sure you're following us on all the platforms. Like I tell y'all, I'll be out here live skying on the Blue Sky. I'll be on the TikTok. I'm getting ready to post all my little vacation videos on there. So make sure y'all go ahead and follow us there. Facebook and IG. And I just want to thank y'all. Love y'all so much. Be safe. Have a wonderful Memorial weekend.